everybody, and welcome to the MMA Heat podcast. I'm Karyn Bryant.
What's up, everyone? Alan Jouban here with you as well.
So, hey, everybody, how are you? It is Monday, May something.
Something, I know.
I don't even know. We are here on the MMA Heat podcast where we obviously talk about fights all the time. Last week was a big week. We had 3 fights in 1 week. So we actually did bonus podcasts. We had one on Monday. We did one on Thursday as well to talk about the Jacksonville show. And today we're here to talk about UFC Florida, which had Walt and Alistair Overeem in the main event. But first and foremost, Alan, just catching people up on everything. Did you have a good weekend? And we're going on, I believe, day 63 here at home for the most part. I know a lot of things are starting to open up, but we're still spending a lot of time at home. But how you feeling these days? You doing all right?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, look, I'm going a little crazy like everyone else, but me personally doing good. Training's coming along. I'm going to be going back to some full training soon, hopefully, as long as the gyms can get open. But training in my backyard, and that's going well for me. How about you? Still killing some puzzles and everything?
Still killing the puzzles. Currently working on one right now that I am enjoying quite a bit. It is a bunch of pencils all strung together, and I'm really enjoying it. The only thing that I don't like about the only reason it's taking me longer than it should is because I can't group together the colors, because usually when I'm doing a puzzle, I can kind of group things together by the colors, but the pencils all have all these colors that bleed together and labels, so I can't separate it by colors. That's the only thing that's slowing me down, but otherwise, I'm doing pretty well with it, and today, seeing as it's raining in LA, I might be able to put a little bit more time in on it, so.
I saw that puzzle. That was that's an elite level. That's a tough one.
It's pretty good. It's not even that challenging if I'm being 100% honest with you. It's just like I said, it's more about the separation. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I can get all your questions here. They were here and then they went away. So this is a little issue I have to deal with, Alan. But first and foremost, let's just jump right in. Alistair Overeem and Walt Harris, obviously that was our main event. You know, this was a tough one going into it because everything that has happened with Walt, with his stepdaughter, Anaya, there was so much going on to this. You know, they were supposed to fight in December. Obviously, it got pushed back because he was dealing with that awful family tragedy. So finally, the time has come. You know, Walt was saying in a dream, he heard her and she was saying, Daddy, it's okay. You know, focus on fighting. I know that you love me and I know that you love this as well. So there was just so much going into it, so much goodwill for Walt in this fight. But still in all, he had some good moments in the first round. But Alistair Overeem, a veteran and kind of in a tough place in this one, Alan, because you know, he wants to win the fight, but it's a tough spot for him. But a great performance by Alistair in the end.
A great performance. And, I mean, I don't know if I want to say that other heavyweights would not have carried themselves as well as Alistair, but I feel that we were fortunate to have Alistair be the person, be the bad guy somewhat in this fight, because he's an experienced veteran. He's a good guy. He's got, I think, 2 daughters of his own.
Yes, he does.
Kids. And so it was just somebody that kind of fit the role of having to be someone that could take everyone kind of rooting against them. Because a lot of the people that were probably rooting against Alistair, obviously were not rooting against Alistair as much as they were rooting for Walt.
Right.
But nonetheless, it means you're somewhat rooting against him. But a lot of those people they're getting at are probably Alistair fans.
For sure.
Just as you and I and everyone else that follows his show probably were tweeting and trying to help find his daughter during it, and we became very involved, emotionally attached, and with that became the same thing. I'm a fan of Alice. I follow Alice. I don't follow Walt, but when the fight came, I really wanted this night to be for Walt. You know, the interesting thing about it, Karyn, is like every fight, I want to see a good fight. Winner or loser, I may have my picks, but I want to see a fight. And so what I'm getting at is when Walt cracked Alistair in the beginning, I go, okay, great. This is good for you, Walt. But, like, survive. I was rooting for Alistair to survive because I wanted it to go into the second round, the third round. I wanted to, you know, to have these guys have the opportunity to get them to go back and forth. And what I didn't realize was that was going to be Walt's one and only opportunity, because Alistair was so able to turn the tides, get the position, and finish the fight. And you had to feel bad for Walt. But the experience of Alistair really played a tremendous role in this fight.
Well, and yeah, and that was what we knew going into this, because the last time we saw Alistair anyway, it was in the fight with Jairzinho Rozenstruik, where he literally was winning 4 rounds and 50 seconds. You know what I mean? And so we know how good he is, and when he's patient and when he fights smart, that that's Alistair. And I think even they said something during the broadcast, but like, or maybe I'm confusing it. Actually, I think it was when they were talking about Arlovsky the other day, but you know, there was a time not that long ago that people were writing Alistair off too, saying, right, his chin had gotten too, you know, tested too many times. And, you know, he had lost a couple of fights. And a while ago, people were saying that Alistair was getting written off, you know. He made some adjustments. He came back around. You know, one thing that's been really interesting about Alistair too over the years, and actually for Andrei Arlovsky as well, some of these veterans, you have seen them go through different stages of their personalities even, right? And the bravado and this and that and the humility that comes at different points in your career and the ups and downs. And Alistair did get to a point where he had to like humble himself, had to take some hard looks, get some different coaching, train with some people who had beaten him, i.e. Curtis Blades. I mean, he really took a hard look at some things and made the adjustments and the changes that he needed to do later in his career to still have this resurgence. He was turning 40 on Saturday night and is saying, he still wants to make one more run for it. And Alan, I thought he looked great. Yeah,
he did. You know, he looked great. The one thing you pointed out, the chin, you know, look, that shot, those couple of shots that he took from Walt Harris, it probably would have dropped every other heavyweight in the UFC as well. So we can't really say his chin is diminishing, but that has been the one thing, you know, having 75 professional fights comes with its toll. It comes with an awful lot of experience, but it comes with an awful lot of damage. And so once you've had your bell rung before, it's continuous that it'll probably happen again. So we saw that, I think, in this fight. I think it was a solid shot, but I think we saw a little bit of, you know, somebody who's been dropped a number of times. But as you mentioned, the resiliency for him to clear his head, know how to close up the guard, stall the fight, stay alive, and come back and win the fight. And you know what's very interesting about this fight is, well, I mean, we're going to get into the decisions. That's a whole, oh my goodness. The decisions are atrocious, this card, in my opinion. But we've seen so many fights. The storyline has been lately, like, was it an early stoppage? Was it a late stoppage? And then what happened in this fight? We saw a good referee do some good stuff. I'm not saying somebody wasn't a good referee, but a referee that allowed somebody to weather the storm when his bell got rung. You know, he got the fog away after about 10, 15 seconds, recomposed himself, came out and won the fight. And so that is why I'm always giving the fighter the, you know, give him extra time, because so we could see stuff like this with Alistair Overeem. But again, it was heartfelt for Walt Harris, but you had to feel joyful for Alistair, at least not during the fight, but after the fight. When most people realized once the smoke had cleared from the fight, this man just turned 40. It's his birthday today. He had to come out here, play the bad guy role, and he handled it with class. Congratulations to him.
Yeah, I am too glad, not to say that other people couldn't have handled it well, but like you said, I'm glad it was Alistair, a man with a lot of history and a lot of perspective on the sport and on being a father. And you could tell, I mean, it was emotional for both of them afterwards. You know, definitely near the end, it was time for the fight to be stopped because, Walt wasn't really giving anything back and was flattened out. But to your point about the reffing, you know, this could have been stopped in the first round and Walt would have had his hand raised, right? A different ref. And so I can totally see Dominic Cruz at home, like screaming, you know what I mean? Like jumping up and down and screaming about wishing he had a ref that, you know, gave him a break, you know, especially in his case when he only had 2 seconds left in the round. So, I like the reffing and I like that they gave both gentlemen time, you know, to really assess the situation and make sure that everything was right. You know, one thing that was kind of tough, you know, watching this, and you might have thought this, you know, Wade said this when we were watching, was that Alistair, you know, playing the role of the man that did these terrible things to Walt's daughter, right? So there had to have been so much inner monologue going on that I can only imagine, you know, and Walt is such a lovely guy. And there was so much in the build up to this and the pre-show, and we saw in the interviews how emotional and how raw this obviously is and is going to be for quite some time. But that was one thing that was hard for me watching this, was just trying to wonder what was going through his head. If there was second guessing it going in his head, what is he actually visualizing? How much doubt was there going, like how many voices were in his, there's just so much going on. And then also earlier in the night, he saw his teammate, Eryk didn't win his fight. And like, I just was really wondering that, yes, it was a triumph and there's so much great stuff. And everybody had all that great will toward Walt. I hope that it was as good for him, and this might sound weird, as good for him as it was for us, meaning like, I hope getting over this hurdle, getting back into the octagon, getting that feeling and dealing with whatever was in there. Hopefully it's a step forward though, is all I'm hoping for.
I think that's what it was. It was getting over the hurdle for the first time for him, that transitioning from the tragedy to going back to being productive in life again on your own without your daughter. And so, yeah, it was a big hurdle for him to overcome. And win or lose, obviously Dana White said it. There's no losers in this. Walt's a winner no matter what. But I think it will be a win for him in terms of getting back to some sort of normality in life again for him.
And the fact that, he almost won the first round anyway. Like, so for me too, it's still a big question of like, Walt's still going to just get great fights and great matchups because he looks, he belongs here. You know what I mean? So it is a victory, even in defeat there. Let's see if we have any questions here about, yes.
I need to adjust my camera. Sorry,
okay. Yeah.
While you're doing that.
Well, Barboza is saying Overeem has won 3 of his 4, but the heavyweight division is stuck right now because of Stipe. I mean, yeah, that is true. We don't really know what's happening with Stipe. Stipe is saying that he will fight DC and that he'll sign the paperwork and all that. We just know that with the crisis and being a fireman and various different things going on there. But Stipe claims to say that they are going to fight. Then it is interesting if Stipe and DC fight. Then we again have Overeem trying to get in there. We have Ngannou, who just won his fight against Rosenstruck. Ngannou deserves it. Yeah. John is talking about Ngannou. We know what happened the last time Ngannou and Alistair fought, Alan.
That's tough because, Alistair's saying, maybe I can make a run for the title. But, yeah, the road to the title is a difficult one for Alistair. When you talk about possible Ngannou, possible DC, possible Stipe, those are not easy fights for Alistair.
No, not easy fights. Little Snoop put a little cash dollars in here while he watches. Thank you so much, Little Snoop. We always appreciate your support here. Oh, nice. So moving forward, for Overeem, he fought in December, so I like that he's staying active too, and that he is eyeing the end of his career here and seeing. And you know what? Even if he doesn't ever make it to the UFC title, he's got a lot of other belts and he's already done a lot of great things. But I'm Demolition Man's looking good. Looking good.
Yeah, you talk about his credentials. I mean, at one point in time, the glory belt, the K1, all the credentials that Pride or I can't even remember anymore. But Strikeforce when he had all those belts,
K1, all this,
and he looked like a Demolition Man.
I know.
I want to defend on one little thing. We always see the comparison photos that they show, pre-USADA, but a lot of those photos as well are also, it's been a while. You're talking about 8, 9, 10 years ago now since when he was fighting overseas or when he started in Strikeforce. Granted, some of that transitioned into the UFC as well, but a lot of those photos are 10 years old. And so when we saw on fight night that he was turning 40 years old during this fight, I go, you got to give the man credit. Like, yes, he's a little bit softer looking, and he was probably, taking some things that aren't allowed today. We know that. But at 40 years old, this man still has a tremendous physique and is still going strong against people 15 years his elder. So he's a freak, man. He's a genetic freak. He's a gifted individual, and I'm happy for him, as we mentioned, with our hearts or with Walt. But I'm happy for Alistair the way that he handled everything.
Yeah, agreed. And to your point there, I had shared for throwback an old clip that we had when Alistair and Brock Lesnar were weighing in UFC 141, I think it was. And actually the co-main event is Nate and Cowboy, which I'd totally forgotten. No wonder this literally is our second most viewed clip at MMA Heat. So if you're watching this video on my YouTube channel, you'll also find it here on the Karyn Bryant YouTube channel. But if you just search in, Overeem and Brock or whatever so that that has almost 17 million views, Alan.
Wow.
And I put a little piece of it up on Instagram the other day on my page because it was just Alistair weighing in, and then like the gun show on him was absolutely insane. And yeah, some people were commenting on there about whatever, the horse meat thing and this and that. Like, and I had to say, I was like, look, I'm not putting this up here for you guys to just bag it. The man is a legendary, and this was a time and a place, and this was epic. And like, look at him and Brock, and it to me, it was just this celebration of like, that's the demolition man. You know, I just like Alistair. And so I didn't like that people were kind of bagging on him like that, because the man has just been around forever and will definitely be one of those guys who leaves a massive mark on the game. So I like that he's making a run. And for Walt, we know all we have is upside with him now, right? So it's really very uplifting in a way.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, one thing, going back to the refereeing during this fight, obviously they gave Alistair a chance, but I was very appreciative that you could tell the referee was aware of the situation. Walt wasn't going anywhere. He had his hips strapped. He wasn't really doing the proper defense, which is try to get one hip on the mat in order to escape. But look, I'm not trying to pick apart his fighting style. It's much different at heavyweight. Things don't work as easily when you have a 265-pound man on you punching you. But the referee gave him every opportunity, because I think the referee probably knew, look, Walt wants this more than anything. And I was imagining the monologue going on. I don't remember hearing the referee, but I had to imagine the referee saying, Walt, you got to show me something. You got to show me something. You got to look to escape. Walt, I'm going to stop this. And I was just imagining Walt thinking like, I've got to do this. I got to do this. But he just could not crawl his way out of that hole. Eventually, the inevitable, it was a good stoppage, a smart stoppage. But I appreciated letting him take some punches, seeing what happened, because you don't want to stop a fight like that so early. And he's got so much emotion pent up that he was trying to get out right there. So it was good refereeing all around from round 1 to round 2 on that main event.
Yep. Well, you mentioned it. I think, did you use the word atrocious decisions, or did you just say questionable? And this is really hard for me in the co-main, because Claudia Gadelha and Angela Hill are both just two awesome girls. I like them both so much. They're both great fighters. Obviously, in this fight, you know, Angela had so much to gain. She's not even ranked, which is crazy. This is a woman who's just been winning and taking fights on short notice. And yes, she hasn't been beating all the huge big names, but she has been on a tear and looking so good. So huge opportunity for her to fight Claudia Gadelha. It ends up being a split decision for Gadelha. A lot of people seeing it Angela's way in this one. And, you know, I hope in this case that Angela does get a ranking, even off the loss here. There's a picture of Claudia with her hands raised. I'm curious what your take is on this one, because it did seem to be 1-1 going into the third, and you could see some things happening. Claudia had kind of a surge later in the third, and some forceful, sort of bigger, impactful moments that may have stolen her the third round here. But I'm curious what your take is. Yeah,
and so I'm judging this fight and reading this fight purely off of watching the rhythm and the momentum of the fight, right? I didn't count the punches, but I would bet you anything that that Claudia Gadelha lost in the punches landed.
Okay.
But I agreed. I had it maybe 1-1. I think it was even, I can't remember. It's hard for me to dissect this fight, but I think it was the second round. Claudia Gadelha got a takedown for a couple of minutes.
Right.
Didn't do a tremendous amount with it. And then why am I blanking on
Angela?
Angela, thank you. Angela Hill was able to get up. And so I don't even know if I quite gave Claudia that full round. But it was the last round. You could just see it. Claudia did have her moments, okay? She did have her moments, but they were short-lived. And Angela just moved so good and stuck and moved and outlanded her. And the damage, you know, we're talking about damage scores first. And Claudia Gadelha was obviously very busted up into the fight. Angela Hill didn't have too many marks on her. And so I thought it was a clear wild. I mean, you're looking at it right there. I mean, look, it's a fight. We all get busted up. And maybe Claudia Gadelha gets more red than Angela Hill. So it's hard to just say, oh, you know, this or that. Some people are bleeders. Some people are not. But you could see Angela Hill outscoring her, outpunching her, doing more damage during the fight. And you have to take that into account when you're going to the judges' scorecards. Like, yes, Claudia Gadelha might have taken her down or landed a couple punches. But if you land a punch on Angela Hill and Angela Hill keeps the pep in her step and she's punching you back, how much are you scoring that? But when Angela Hill is hitting her, you were seeing Claudia Gadelha, didn't she almost get dropped in the first round? And,
yes.
And some of the punches, you could really see the effects, not only in her face, but in her body language. And that's how I score stuff. I see when you get punched, blood or not, that says one thing, but how you react is what I judge. Did that hurt you? Are you scared now? Do you need to recover? And Angela Hill was never in trouble or hurt or timid. She just kept coming forward. And so that's got to tell you something. Yeah, at this point, to sum this all up, I was tweeting, and I've been tweeting every fight, and the judges kept messing it up. And I go, that looked like a clear victory for Angela Hill, but I don't want to jinx her. And sure enough, when the judges' scorecard came back, I was shocked. I feel bad for her. We're going to get in. I feel like we're going to have to repeat ourselves a couple times on this fight card because this happened a number of times. But I definitely had it in favor of Hill. And just to add to it, me and you both have talked about this. We both really, really like Claudia Gadelha. Yeah. You were texting me before the fight like it's going to be a battle of the cuties because we both like these girls. They're both cute girls. They're both good personalities.
Yes.
We both like them. But fair is fair. Angela won the fight.
And it's tough, too, because Claudia's been, in some close fights, and she was on the receiving end of the one, right, with Joanna, right? So, it's tough. It's tough because I know she knows what it feels like to be on the other side when you completely thought you won and you didn't, right? So, whatever, you got to go with that. I want to speak to the judging in this. I meant to give away the scorecard before, but I'll read it for you here. But so basically, all three judges gave Gadelha round one. All three judges gave Hill round two. And then two judges gave Claudia Gadelha round three. So that's why she got it. So one judge gave 2 and 3, the other ones gave 1 and 3 to Claudia. Yeah. So she lost there. Yeah, I
think we're able to look at her right there posing with a little
I know.
Good shot, Angela.
Yeah.
Yeah,
split decision. I mean, it's tough because it's tough. It was really close, and I hope out of it Angela gets some ranking and stuff, right? Because and there's Andrade. I mean, this is or that's Gadelha rather in the Andrade headset. But we know that Angela didn't have a number next to her, and even though she lost in this, like, that's a fight that proves that this is a woman who can hang with the top.
Yeah, no, it's. I like that you were able to share the cards with us, which you always do. You seem to always be the person with the judges' scorecards. I don't know whose number you got or whatever, but I like that we're able to have this insight, right? Because I wish there would be some type of penalty for judging, and I don't think this is a clear highway robbery. Mm-hmm. But it was the wrong decision in my mind for sure. And so we're able to see what the judges are looking at. And so I feel like when the managers of Angela Hill decide to say, look, we're gonna what's the word I'm looking for? We're gonna appeal this.
Yes.
We're gonna appeal this decision. Then the judges can go back and say, look, this is why I scored at this round. Like I feel like there should be a process, and there might be something in place already. I'm not sure of it. But I would wish the judges would have to go back in front of the supervisor and say, look, I scored it. Let's watch your fight. And I scored it this round. And this is why. And to hear their remarks. And I wish that would be brought to the public as well. Then at least we could say, okay, at least I know now this judge scores takedowns more than this or the damage because of this or that's what he saw. But we never know. And so we just have to assume these judges are blind. And I wish we had more insight into what they're actually seeing.
Well, and also, though, in this case, Alan, we can't complain that the crowd is swaying them.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? And it is weird, right? Because there were a few questionable decisions. Hold on, I want to look and see if people have comments on Claudia before we move on. But let's see. People both basically just saying, even Claudia was saying, I guess, that, yeah, it's nuts that Angela doesn't have a ranking and all this stuff. And yeah, of course, Angela is already looking to try to get in on a Fight Island. Here's the ViStar Arena where they did fight. All 3 fight cards went there. But, you know, that was Jacksonville and everybody trying to get on Fight Island because we're not really sure what's going to be next. We're not sure if Vegas is going to be next. And there was something out about Arizona maybe being the case. But, you know, it is interesting with that judging, Alan, because there's no crowd there. They should just know what's going on. Even with that fight, you know, it was closely judged. I don't know which other one you found most egregious. There was the Barboza Ige decision that was pretty close. Yeah. There was a couple. I'm not sure what other one you found to be the most questionable.
I like that word, Karyn. Egregious? Is it egregious? Yes. I'm going to steal that, egregious. I don't remember which fight was the most egregious, but definitely the Barboza fight. I had Barboza winning. And
me too. And I feel bad for saying that. I don't want to take anything away from Danny Ige, but I thought Edson won.
So Edson won that fight, but Ige, I apologize. I'm not good with his name. Ige, I thought that was such a gutty performance. And so,
totally.
And none of these fights do I want to take anything away from any fighter ever. But for him, being the smaller in stature type fighter, going up against not only the bigger fighter coming down in weight, but it's Edson Barboza. This is the guy that I have said repeatedly, the best striker in the UFC. Yeah. When you put together the accuracy, the explosiveness, et cetera, he has the combination of everything you want in a perfect striker when you're building your Street Fighter, your Mortal Kombat character. This is the guy. And he sat there and went toe-to-toe with him. He took Edson Barboza's best shots, and he gave them back beautifully. He would come with 3 hooks in a row, taking the punches. He did great. And so it was a beautiful, gutty performance by Ige. But Edson won, and I wanted to see Edson win, and I go, you know what? Edson won, but that was a close fight, and I'm going to follow this guy Ige now because he's a beast.
Yes.
But to give him the victory was just uncalled for. He did not win that fight. Again, I think Edson Barboza posted on his Instagram that I saw. I think they do where the media scores it as well, and not one media person that was on that list of about 15 of them, journalists, had it for Ige. It was all for Barboza, so it's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, and I guess also what was tough is that, you know, the whole move down was because he is having some, you know, not great results anymore up at 55, right? And so he comes down and a new refresh button and a new lease on life. And I thought he won, right? So then I was thinking too, well, that's discouraging. You try something new, you bust your ass, you get down here, and then you actually do have a great performance, and then you're still going to get an L on your record. And, you know, even though we know Edson is more than what his record shows, and by all accounts, most fighters are more than, you know, what their record could show. I mean, for that matter, Angela's record is not that far off a 500 record, but we know she's more than that, right? So it's not about the record necessarily, but in that respect, with Barboza, I'm like, well, this just sucks because it's just got to be very discouraging to have that other L on there now when you really feel like you won, and most people, like you just said, seem like you won. Hopefully, you know, because there was talk with him before he wanted to fight or get out of his contract, and you know, so I don't know what'll happen now and how that'll affect the relationship and this and that. But you know, a lot of time, as you know, Alan, you've even been in this situation where a fight didn't go your way, and afterwards the brass will be like, "Yo, I thought you won. Like, it's cool. You know, don't stress." Hopefully, there was that kind of conversation with a guy like Edson. You know, not to take anything away from Dan Ige, but the veteran, I'm hoping, is getting a little side conversation and a don't stress too much. We'll get you another good fight, you know?
Yeah, you've got me so curious now. I didn't hear the post-fight stuff from Dana, but I would love to know if someone asked him what he thought of that fight and what his remarks were. You've got to feel for him. Like you said, he came down in weight. He won the fight pretty clearly in my eyes. And think about this. Was his last fight before this fight with Ige the one with Paul Felder?
I think so, right? And there was like Hooker before and all that, right? So
that's another fight that, look, I thought the Paul Felder fight was a much closer fight, but nonetheless, I had Barboza beating Felder as well. I thought that he got gypped in that fight. I thought Felder's
there were so many close fights with Edson. Yeah.
So it's weird that he has so many close fights and he's such a killer. Paul has a way of not going away, so he made that fight very close. But I still thought that he got robbed against Felder. And so to get robbed 2 fights in a row after making a new weight, coming down, and you mentioned it, he wanted out. He wanted out. I think he had burnt out mentally, and then coming off of getting robbed. That's the same thing as me. When I got robbed my last fight, which I thought I did, at least, I was burnt out. I was mad. I didn't know what I wanted to do because it does that. It's like you put all your hard work and then something gets stripped from your hands. So I can only imagine the mindset that he's in right now. Hopefully he's more experienced having it twice in a row, that he's not going to let it affect him, rather than what I'm hoping doesn't happen. That same feeling comes back doubled, amplified now. 2 times in a row, he did not get his win purse. He's making half the money, and his record's getting more and more poor. So we'll have to see what happens. But you got to feel bad for the guy. Two of them taken from him twice in a row.
Yeah, and still obviously has so much to give, and like it was like an awesome fight. So
very good fight.
Well, I just want to look. So Ige for the comments afterward, because it was a split decision. And which is even more like where you're like, it's like one, whatever. So the reason it was a split, let's see. So, well, it gets a little squirrely reading this, but I wanted to see what Ige had to say. He's definitely saying that it proved that he's a contender. Not taking anything away from Edson. But now he's going to start to say that people are going to really start to pay attention to who he is. He says people better start recognizing and realize that I'm in this for real. I'm not just the manager boy that runs around running errands for everyone. I'm a fighter. I'm here. I'm one of the best in the world. So, because, it's interesting. He has been around for a while, and people are just starting to pay attention now, I guess. Right. So,
I got to say too, Karyn, I thought he handled the post-fight interview very well.
Yeah.
Because I was like, are you kidding me? This guy didn't win the fight. But then he gets on the mic and he kind of won me over. He's like, he has a personality. He's enthusiastic. He wants bigger fights. And he was saying, people are going to know me. They're going to know I'm the guy that just smoked or just beat Barboza. And I liked it. I like the spunk that he has. He's a good fighter. Just didn't think he won that one.
Absolutely. All right. So let's see if anybody had any. There are people tuning in from Canada and everything. Hello, Canada.
What's up, Canada?
We do love Canada. All right. So I'm trying to think, was there another one to you? Was there any other fights that kind of stood out to you? I mentioned earlier that Walt's teammate Eryk had lost that fight with Jotko. He started to really kind of outstruck him. Seemed like his countering and his sort of answers for things were better in that respect, even though Eryk kind of came on a little stronger in the last round. But Jotko was, definitely seemed more technical.
Yeah. That fight and mainly the Chico Yadong fight. That fight, another one, I thought Chico clearly won that fight. Close in the regards of it being a back and forth fight, but if I'm, close in terms of it was still 10-9, 10-9, 10-9 in my eyes or whatever. But Chico, I thought, very much won that fight. You could see the damage. Yadong is a beast, let me say. I remember when the UFC sent me to China a couple of years ago, they were very much promoting this guy because they were expecting him to be the next big thing. And he's only 21 years old. He came on a short notice camp. Uriah Faber was saying that he had trained at home for about 8 weeks by himself because the gym was closed. So Yadong was preparing for this fight at home, not even knowing if it was going to happen because of the visa issues. And he took it. That was the whole reason that Uriah Faber weighed in, just in case Yadong wasn't eligible to fight. Uriah was going to fight Chico. But I thought Yadong put up a tremendous fight. But Chico just took everything that he had and kept moving forward. Chico was out there trying to, in my eyes, kind of prove a point. Like, I'm the bigger, badder man. You punch me, I'm going to still step forward and punch you back. And you could see the the reaction on his face when he announced Yadong as the winner. I was in the same boat as him. I thought he got robbed on that one.
Well, okay, a couple of things here. Yes, so they did get fight of the night, though, so at least there is some comfort there. And that's the interesting thing, he is so young, and we've actually known him for a really long time. He was part of the Rough Federation fighting in China. So I actually interviewed Song Yadong years and years ago when he was 15, really, really, really young. So last August when I was in Shenzhen, I was able to see him there, and we caught up, and it was nice to see him and, catch up with him. So I've actually been a fan of his for a while and do root for him. Because I feel like there aren't that many Chinese fighters in the UFC, and this is a kid that I met so young, and so have a soft spot for him. But it was a tough fight, and it was a close fight, and he actually knows that too. It was a unanimous decision, but he said afterwards, he even said, I was thinking it was maybe a split decision, but when I heard it was a unanimous decision, I felt good, but I didn't do well in this fight. I feel like I learned a lot from this fight. When I have the chance, I will review this fight and get more experience for when I come back. I feel I'm on the right track, and I trust my coaches like Uriah Faber, and he's leading me the right way. But yeah, to your point, even Yadong Song was not completely convinced that it was going to go his way. So
I did not remember that was a unanimous decision. That's crazy. That's wild. A unanimous decision in his favor. You know, after the fight, how should I say this? Chico doesn't always come off politically correct with his statements and tweets. I don't know if you saw his tweet, but
what he say?
He was not approving of the decision, and he kind of worded it a little bit funny. I don't know if it was the accent or what, but he was like, the Chinamen in no way beat me, this and that, and he was pretty upset afterward, and he let Twitter know about it. Some people might have taken offense to his tweet. I know that he was just upset with the decision. I don't think he was wording it correctly.
Okay, well, only because there's a lot of Asian Americans and Asians in general right now are getting a lot of grief because of the virus, and that's not cool. So hopefully people aren't misconstruing it or building it into some other thing too.
So I don't know. I don't know if it was blurring in those lines, if he was trying to throw salt, because he was upset, or if it was just more so just the not worded correctly. But that tweet got a lot of attention, definitely. But you can tell he was not pleased with the results.
Oh, I missed out. I'll have to look. I'll have to look about that. Okay, so a couple of other things. Hey, Nietzsche Hoskins, finally catching us. Hey, girl. Hey. So people, cast iron Casey, people were talking about that one a little bit. So she went up in that weight class, and she was a bigger girl anyway at 15. So to me, that looked like, obviously that's not a problem for her to fight that weight class. What'd you think of Baeza and Matt Brown? Like, Matt Brown is another one, these guys, like some of these veterans that your heart is really just with them a lot. And he had a great, I'm all tweeting. I was like, oh my God, Matt Brown looks great. Like, the veteran's still looking good. And then I was like, oh, then it turned. Baeza, he's got something. He's young and fresh and all this stuff. And he even said after, we're like, hey, I was surprised they gave me a name as big as Matt Brown, because he's like, I didn't expect them to give me Matt Brown right now. And I thought Matt looked good, and he's those guys, who's been in so many wars over the years that there's always still like a soft spot when Matt Brown throws down. You're like, yeah, we're gonna get a war.
Yeah. No, I was, going into this fight, somebody asked, who am I picking? And I go, I don't know, because Matt Brown is the immortal. He's a tough guy. Mm-hmm. He will finish you if you give him a slight opportunity. But this guy, Baeza, am I saying his name right? Baeza?
Yeah, Baeza. Yeah.
Baeza. I noticed he was managed by Black House. And so I started looking up, and he looked really good in the highlights and stuff.
You're like, wait, a pretty boy at Black House? Wait a minute.
I know. There's no more room. I know. So I'd never seen him at the gym, but he's with the management apparently. Yeah. And so I looked up to him, and he looks like a very tough, dangerous guy, like 9-0 type of record. But it didn't make sense to me that Matt Brown would take this fight right now. He what's there to gain out of it? It was a dangerous fight. So I was wondering why this fight was made. I was thinking maybe, and I don't know the story behind it, but I was assuming maybe Matt had somebody else possibly, and they dropped out, and then Baeza kind of slid into the conversation. Because otherwise, I was thinking that Matt, after 2 years off and then coming back and this stage in his career, would be wanting to fight more bigger names or just something that kind of
like legacy names or something, right? Yeah.
Legacy names, things of that such, rather than somebody much younger, good, dangerous fighter. It's a lose-lose, because even a win over him doesn't do anything for you other than get paid. So it was a bit of a risky fight, and it turned out not to pay off for Matt, but for Baeza, it paid off tremendously. Now he has a feather in his cap from Matt. He got the bonus. He got the performance of the night bonus. And people really took notice at the scene. And when somebody knocks out Matt Brown like that, you take notice. And now people are really going to have their eyes on him these next couple of fights. So smart fight for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Wade's coming down. I've been getting all the. What's up?
Joseph Boza was asking. Dana had mentioned the Korean zombie next. I was curious what your thoughts were.
What the Korean zombie? Dan Ige said he wants the zombie. I don't know. Zombie's like aiming for a title fight. I mean, it's cool. You got to start calling out big names and stuff like that. But I don't think Ige gets zombie next. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if he gets the next, but I like where the directions he's going. I mean, he's looking for names. He's looking for tough guys, and anybody that wants that. The UFC has always been a fan of that type of guy. If he gets it or not, they're a fan of wanting the tough fight. You know. Before it slips my mind, who was that guy? I had never seen this guy before. The guy that went crazy in a post-fight interview. He had a knockout. No. He fought the Damaged. The guy that fought the Damaged?
Oh yes, not Landgraf. Was it?
His name.
Yes.
He had a crazy nickname too.
Yeah, who fought Elkins? Yeah. Sorry, I'm blanking right now too. It was Land. Wasn't it Landgraf or?
A bit of a bloodbath, and he just went off on the microphone. I think it was Paul Felder was interviewing him post-fight,
right? And
he let his personality fly. And it won me over because I didn't watch that fight. I was doing stuff. But when I first saw the guy, I was like, who is this guy? This guy looks like he works at an office or something, like a cubicle. And then the guy turns out to be a monster and a beast. And he gets on the mic and he's a crazy-ass country boy or something. So that guy did major good points in getting his name out there. Sorry.
Well, he did that, but now we can't remember it.
Go ahead.
You said, get his name out there, but now we're blanking on it.
Right, I know. I didn't watch your fight. I saw the highlights and I saw the post-fight interview. But, in the Damage, Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins, that's his full name, correct?
Yes, Darren Elkins is the Damage. It was whatever, Landwehr.
I don't know where he came from. I've never seen the guy before. I don't know if that was his debut or not. Like I said, I didn't see the walkout and get the information on him. But, man, the guy can fight. The guy's a gamer. He's fun. Darren Elkins, another guy that can fight, and he's fun to watch. But, man, I know his chest says the Damage, but, God, is there a way that he could not take so much damage in every single fight? It's really tough to watch. I know, look, the punch with the blood flying and splattering, everybody reposted that. Everybody was screenshotting it. You want to be a UFC fighter, as real as it gets, this and that. It's a crazy picture. It's worth a repost. But for Darren, he should not be known as that guy that always gets torn up, that your face looks like carnage in every fight. You don't want that anymore. Fun fights are fun fights, but when you're literally the Damaged in every fight, you don't want to become damaged goods. So I hope he can kind of find a way to change that style. I have a feeling not his fault, much like Nick or Nate Diaz. He's got so much scar tissue built up that anytime he gets touched, it bleeds. But craziness, crazy picture, crazy blood, and the other guy who we forgot his name.
Nate Landwehr. It's just that his name is pronounced weird. It's spelled Landwehr. Nate Landwehr. So
Landwehr. Does it say his nickname on there?
His
nickname. I remember them like his name, like the Wolf or the Bull or. There's something, I don't know. I don't want to make you look up stuff. But
well, it's funny though, because as soon as he was on there, I was like, wait a minute. I just kept thinking that, sorry, got some hair in my mouth. I just kept thinking that Thug Nasty was going to be like, wait a minute, that's my act.
Hey, exactly. I know. Yo, this guy's wilder than Thug Nasty. Thug Nasty might be more country.
Totally.
This guy was like the crazy guy that lives in the woods with the beer. Yeah, this guy was wild. So I'm going to look out for Nate. Sorry, Nate. Sorry we didn't know your nickname and your name, but we know you now, brother. Great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, let's see if there's any more questions before we get out of here. So now we don't know. Here's the thing. We're not sure what's going to be next because there, could be some fights in a couple weeks in June. It might be Tyron versus Gilbert. We're not really sure. They could be in Vegas. They could be in Arizona. We're not exactly sure when. So on the one hand, it was kind of great having this week with all these fights. But now at the same time, now you're sort of like, oh, now what?
It was the last dance. Now what do we do? I know it's like we're going to ram some fights down your throat and then just leave you hanging for a little while. But You said it. It could be the Apex Center. It could be Arizona. Dana White kind of hinted. But it also, he was saying Fight Island would be ready come early May. And we have passed that point. So I'm assuming Fight Island is ready. They're just trying to coordinate everybody going. So I'll be curious once we start getting those details of where is this place, what's it look like, and who's on the card. That'll be an exciting news to find out.
Yeah. And also just, with travel and everything. So people were asking me a lot over this weekend. They're like, hey, what's happening? Like, why aren't you at work? So just so people know, I usually am working on like UFC Live and pre-shows and post-shows. And that is considered sort of like extra right now. So what they're doing is taking more of a streamlined group of people. And so they're having people kind of multitask and do multiple things, usually, even though that's not necessarily what they would always do. So there's a lot of us that work on all these ancillary shows and stuff, a lot of production people that just aren't back to work yet. And so we don't necessarily know when that will happen. And even if they do start doing fights, at Apex and things like that, like, we just don't really know because how many bodies can be in different places and in the buildings and stuff like that. And then that means how many the rest of us can go back to work. So it is a little frustrating, but, hanging in there. Megan and I did do a Killing Even More earlier today, and where we talk about last night's Killing Eve. And she and I were talking about this a little bit on that show as well, because she was traveling. So you can check that out too. She can tell you a little bit about what was happening, when they were doing all the testing and stuff like that. So if you want some info on that. But she said, she felt really good about the care that the UFC staff was taking, and the medical procedures and everything like that. So overall, she said her concern ended up being more on the flight, less than on the ground in Florida.
Good to know. I mean, at first it was a little nerve-wracking when Jotko came out and in the cornerman. And we were like, God, is this going to trickle down? And is this going to be a really bad idea? But, look, he pulled it off. Dana White pulled off a couple of shows in a couple of days and got it done. So as you said, just waiting to see what's next. We can have something to look forward to again.
That's right. Well, in the meantime, it was actually a little rainy today. Even if it stopped raining, I'm going to use that as an excuse to just do my puzzle for the rest of the day. I'm crushing it right now, totally murdering one right now with some pencils on it. But yeah, Alan, I know everybody's asking when you can get back to it. Your training is ramping up. You're kicking things again, right?
Kicking shit up now. Yeah, I'm kind of, I got to remember. I remember now. One of my favorite quotes, Dominic Cruz. He's probably got a lot of them, but he said, I love feeling lethal. And it just resonated with me. Dominic Cruz said that, I love feeling lethal. And I know exactly what that means. And I'm starting to feel that lethal feeling again, being dangerous, being mobile, being able to do stuff and explode. And that's starting to come back. So I'm getting the itch. Nothing's changed. Still looking for the end of the year, probably October, November, December, something around that timeline, just to give my body enough time to fully heal. But I'm training twice a day right now. Granted, it's in my backyard, and sometimes it's with my son or sometimes with a training partner, but I'm always training, trying to get better every day. So as long as things keep going productive as they're going, end of the year.
Very good. Very good. Well, I've been jumping rope like a fiend out on the back patio, and yesterday went for a bike ride and stuff like that, trying to keep it together, keep it tight. I was talking with my tennis coach the other day. They started to open up the courts back here in LA, so it looks like hopefully I can go out there and start whacking that around again, because Lord knows it's going to be hella rusty. They said right now we can only just go out and play singles, which I prefer anyway. So and with all the jump roping, I'm figuring once we can go back to playing tennis, I think my game is going to be pretty good in terms of my cardio and my endurance. I'll be faster at getting to the stuff. It's just going to be trying to get that stroke back. But yeah, looking forward to getting back out there on the court. Until then, so folks, Karyn Bryant across the board. Well, it's not across the board. Karyn Bryant on Instagram. Karyn Bryant on Twitter and on YouTube. Instagram on KB Heat. We have Killing Even More on Instagram and on Twitter as well. You can follow producer Wade at Wade Eck. And Alan, where can they find you?
I'm the one, Karyn. I'm the one across the board, okay? Alan Jouban, all media platforms. How about that? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate y'all.
That's right, folks. Stay safe. Stay sane. If you're having any kind of emotional distress, please reach out to either, your friends or prevention hotlines, all that. Please don't sit and stress out by yourselves at home. If you need some help, please do reach out. But thanks for tuning in for this. We got a ton of episodes. Go back and look and have some fun. But thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys.